I'm Gerry O'Shea, Head of Global Insights at Hashdex, and I'm here with Benjamin Ittah, Head of European Business Development. Ben, how are you?
Hello, hey. Pretty good.
Good to see you. So we're going to talk today about the landscape for professional investors investing in crypto. And the first question I want to ask you is, what sorts of questions do we get from professional investors about crypto assets and crypto asset investing?
Sure. So, as a way of introduction, I'd just like to remind that 14 years after the creation of Bitcoin and the concept of, transferring value through decentralized network, we've seen many cycles. And today I see a real consensus from traditional investors that this technology and this asset class is here to stay and is going to be highly transformative of many aspects of our lives, such as financial transactions, the internet, etc. So, because traditional investors don't necessarily understand the underlying technology of crypto, the most common question is, what is Bitcoin? What is the investment thesis for Bitcoin? How the network works? And these questions are exactly the same when we talk about smart contract platforms such as Ethereum or the decentralized finance platform and concept, and so on. So I would note highly curiosity from these traditional investors to have actors who are specialized in the field to help them demystify what it means. The second type of question that we receive, especially after 2022, where we've seen some bad centralized actors in the industry failed, is on risk management, operational processes. I think traditional investors are hungry to understand how the settlement works for crypto, how the liquidity works, and why it will make more sense for them to delegate investment into the asset class to established player rather than building what I like to call their own crypto kitchen.
What would you say professional investors in Europe need to be comfortable investing in this space and feeling that their money is secure, that this is a safe place to invest?
The first point I'd like to highlight is that post 2022, where we've seen many failure within the industry, mostly coming from centralized player, it's very clear today that for traditional professional investor, accessing to the asset class or to these assets has to be made through products that they know well. And what I mean by that is a need for finding best-in-class investment funds, investment products such as Ittah, in order to delegate anything related to liquidity, risk management, operational infrastructure, and custody. So that's the first point, the need to go through the asset class through the traditional routes of regulated investment products. The second point is in terms of asset allocation. Because this space is so new and emerging, I think that there's investment theses that are understood for maybe Bitcoin, Ethereum, some smart contract platform. But when we come into, the concept of, decentralized Web3, decentralized finance, digital culture, it's a bit more complex for them to understand what are the projects that are going to become winner tomorrow. And on top of that, it's important to note that in the European market, I think today professional investors are really mature in the use of index products. They like to have investment brick in order to access a market, a country, a sector, a thematic, or even an investment factor through smart beta strategies. And I strongly believe that traditional investors are not ready to make their own asset allocation within the crypto universe. So this means that this type of investor are looking for what they know very well in the equity market, which is, accessing the crypto universe through an institutional grade index or through, sector index within the space, or for the most sophisticated one, even smart beta indices.
And can you speak a bit about you mentioned demystifying the asset class is very important to people understanding exactly the value that can come from this space. Can you talk about what Hashdex does to communicate with professional investors?
Absolutely. So, one of our key pillars is education. And when I talk about education, I talk about research on the fundamental of the asset class, the technology, but also how can we digest these elements in order to explain to investors why there's an investment opportunity. It's very clear to us that, bringing research in this asset class needs to be presented in the same way they look at traditional market. So that's why, at Hashdex, we have a team composed of people from the tech universe, but mostly people coming from very traditional market, because we speak the same language as them. And our mission is to be with them through the adoption journey in order to understand what is the asset class, how the asset class work, and what are the best-in-class products to access to it.
We've built our business since 2018 around providing institutional quality services and processes, whether that's in Latin America, in the US, or in Europe. Can you talk a bit about benefits of having that approach, particularly in the crypto space that, as you mentioned before, has seen several bad actors and a lack of trust, I think, generally from the public?
Yeah, absolutely. So, being in the industry since 1 year, I think it was highly interesting to see the behavior of these traditional investors over the last months. I think last year has only reinforced the fact that it can be a highly risky market. I mean, obviously there's the volatility, but that's just, a market risk point. But mostly, I think investors, they don't want to be, exposed to crypto tokens that won't succeed or won't materialize in a concrete project, a concrete added value. But they also really want to avoid, counterparty risk. So by working with us, it's very clear that, we bring best-in-class procedures when it comes to defining the investment universe without taking any discretionary bias. But on top of that, they want to delegate selection of service providers, product structuring, liquidity provider to an established player that has been doing that since more than 5 years.
You mentioned our focus on operational excellence, and can you talk a bit about, there were, of course, many the FTX disaster, and many other kind of crypto industry blow-ups that took place in 2022, and since our founding, we've really focused on being a best-in-class, as you mentioned, in terms of our operations. Can you talk a bit about how that played out in terms of impact to our investors from those events in 2022?
Absolutely. So first of all, I'd like to remind that our mission of becoming a global leader in the crypto asset management space goes through trust from investors. So from day one, we've been obsessed of bringing the highest standard when it comes to risk management. What are our counterparties? Who are our custodians, etc. The other thing to note is, since we have this global partnership with Nasdaq, with who we co-developed the Nasdaq Crypto Index and the Nasdaq Crypto Index Europe, that are, reference benchmark for the asset class, we've learned many things that come from the US laws, and that is the strictest in terms of selection of provider. One example that I like to share to clients is that if we only today work with custodians that are regulated in the US, is because the regulation over there obliged these custodians to both legally but also technically segregate the asset. Other jurisdictions don't necessarily have such a sophistication of rules. So I think we are here to provide products that and indices that remain robust and that keep fulfill their mission through the time, and by implementing a very strict due diligence procedure, both for our investment universe, but also the service providers we work with, we've built something very solid, and we are one of the only actor in the market who has not associated with any noise that we've seen last year, both on our asset allocation, but also in terms of counterparties.
The partnership with NASDAQ in creating the NASDAQ Crypto Index Europe, obviously it's a basket, as you mentioned, crypto assets that have been vetted for with a variety of important filters. Can you talk about the benefits to basket investing in crypto as opposed to, say, investing in a single asset product, whether it's Bitcoin, Ethereum, or other assets?
Sure. So our belief is that this technology is disruptive and is gonna massively have impact into financial transactions, the internet, the way we do social thing, through internet, and that's why we have this tendency to say crypto is more than Bitcoin. We think Bitcoin has a clear use case, has a clear investment thesis that is bringing a lot of solution. But there will be other technologies that will be massively adopted. Which one of them, we don't know. Our goal is to give access to the space through the NASDAQ Crypto Index Europe with market capitalization. And because we don't know, we don't think that adding some cap or some discretionary bias is the solution. On top of that, because it's an emerging and growing asset class, thinking of a top 5 index, top 10 market cap index could be a good product today, but will it remain a good product in the future? And the way we design the index by having a flexible investment universe shows that this index is made for the long term and to be evolutive and always a good reflection of the broad-based and liquid crypto asset. On top of that, working with NASDAQ, the index leader within the technological sector, is to us a proof of credibility, but also a proof of reputational risk. If we have and if we work with NASDAQ, is because we are highly concerned of the reputational risk. And last point, I think that bringing listed ETPs that track an index that follow the governance of NASDAQ and their index committee shows that our positioning is about bringing best-in-class solution within an asset class that is not well known and understood by traditional investor. As a summary or as a conclusion, I can also say that we are bridging the two worlds, but servicing clients in the same way they are served into fixed income, equities, or commodity market.
Ben, can you talk about the mission of Hashdex in Europe?
Sure. So our mission is pretty simple. We are here to provide regulated investment products that traditional investors know very well. They are used to them for other markets. In order for them not to access to Bitcoin or Ethereum or crypto assets, but to access to institutional grade indices within the asset class. And what I mean by that is that we offer them products in Europe, ETPs that are listed on an exchange, in order to access either the market as a whole through the NASDAQ Crypto Index Europe that we co-developed with NASDAQ, or to slices of the market, such as smart beta strategies or thematic strategies that we are working on to bring to European investor. On top of that, I think that because we have this global mission, being market leader in Latin America, being present in the USA and in Europe, we are here to build a highly scalable business. And if you want to succeed in building a highly scalable business, you need to bring best-in-class procedures, both on the indices that you design, but also on the operational infrastructure. And I think today, investors with who we engage, these are the elements that they like. At the end of the discussion, I think for them it's pretty simple. They want to delegate, they're looking for best-in-class providers, and the only question that they have to ask themselves is, do I want to take the market risk? And maybe as a way to conclude my answer, would be to say that Hashdex is just replicating what has been done by traditional ETF issuer in the equity markets in Europe since 2005 to 2015, bringing listed, regulated products to access reference benchmark sectors, smart beta strategies. So I think it makes the discussion very easy with professional investors, both in terms of product structuring or exposure.